Hello everyone, in this video we'll talk about sensory receptors. For the sensory receptors and to understand them, we need to look again over the map of the nervous system. Here we have the receptors, we have the somatic sensory receptors, those are the ones in the skeletal muscles and joints. We have the visceral sensory receptors in internal organs, in stomach and intestines. This is how you feel about your inner body. And then we have the special sensory receptors. This is what we are going to talk about in this chapter. So all of those receptors will send information to the central nervous system, which is the brain and spinal cord. Those information will go up to the system, to the CNS, through the peripheral nervous system. So this is the afferent division. And the CNS, we will integrate and make commands about those information, and then we will send commands. Those commands will either go to the somatic nervous system, which targeting the skeletal muscle, or the autonomic, the sympathetic, parasympathetic, which is smooth muscles, cardiac muscle, glands, and adipose tissue. So this is the overall map of the nervous system, and again, here we are. For those special sensory receptors, as you know, we have the 5 basic senses. We have the hearing, vision, taste, nose, and or smell, and touches. We will focus on maybe the most important two, the vision and the hearing. But before that, we need to talk about the structure of the receptors. And to understand the receptors, we can look at them in different ways. So for the receptors, we can classify them based on 3 things. The structure, what is the structure of the receptor, then their location or the location of the stimuli, and then by the stimuli type or the stimulus type. For the structure, those could be one of 3 things. The first one is the free nerve endings, and those will be, if this is a neuron, right? This is a neuron. Usually it's a unipolar neuron. There will be the axons and the axon terminals. And the other end is the receptors. Those would be just the free nerves like this. An example of them, if you remember in the skin lab in the AB1, we had the root hair plexus. That was an example of free nerve endings. The second group is encapsulated nerve endings. And what does it mean? It means it's kind of the same thing. We can say we have unipolar neuron and we have the free nerves, but those free nerves in this time, instead of they are free, they are within a capsule. They are within a capsule, right? So those are very similar like the tactile corpuscle. If you remember, this was also in the skin for light touches. Lamellar corpuscle as well for deep touches. That was also encapsulated nerve endings. The third group is what we'll call the special senses, which we will see today. Those are the ones responding to light, for example, or the one responding for chemicals, or the one responding for vibrations or sound waves, right? The light, we will see it in the eye. The chemicals could be in the nose, the taste bud, in the mouth, which you will see it in the lab. So all of those classifications are based on structure. Then we have the second way to classify those receptors based on the location of the stimuli. So those could be also classified into one of 3 groups. The first one is something called exteroceptors or interoceptors, and the third one called the proprioceptors. Exteroceptors, it means the stimulus coming from outside. Comes from outside. Like what? Like hearing, for example, sounds. Or vision, that's light. Those are receptors coming from outside the body. Then we have the interoceptors or interoceptors. Those are from inside the body. Like what? Like blood pressure, for example, blood sugar, oxygen levels, sodium, water, all of those are interoceptors. Then the proprioceptors, this is the third group. Those basically are telling about the position of the body. So those are more for the muscles and joints. Those are the ones that will tell you if you are sitting or if you are standing or if you are moving. Okay? So those are responsible for the interpretation of the movement of the body. Then the third way looking at the stimulus or classifying stimulus or stimuli is by looking at their types, the stimulus type. And for those, we'll draw them a little bit down. Stimulus or stimuli types. So here, basically, it's what is the signal that triggering the stimulus. Those could be 5 or 6 different types. And again, based on that type of the stimulus, maybe there are 6. So the first one is mechanoreceptors. So those are responding to mechanical stimulation, like touches, pressure. Then we have thermoreceptors. From the name, those are for temperature, whether it's inside the body or outside the body. Then we have the photoreceptors, which we will see in this chapter. Call them the rods and the cones. We have chemoreceptors, those like the taste buds, right? Then we have the nociceptors. Those are for pain, usually. And then the last one is the osmoreceptors, and those for concentration of water and other solutes inside our body. So this is the first part of the chapter. I will stop here. Then we will resume and start talking about the eye in the second video.